Hi everybody and welcome to Macro Charts and Insights. Today's video will be all about hope. Now you've probably heard about the saying, hope is not an investment strategy. And even though this is an important saying because it underlines the importance of having a solid thesis on why your selection of stocks will increase in value over time, it's not the kind of hope that I want to discuss with you today. I would today like to inform you about a second use of the word hope regarding investing, and this is in relation to the economic and market cycle. Here you see a simplified chart of an economic and market cycle. If you are not familiar with it, then click the linked video for a short explanation about it. Now today's video will be about the downtrending part of the economic cycle. That is also known as an economic recession. This is highly relevant right now because there has been a lot of debate last year and this year on if a recession is coming. People were already calling out last year that a recession was imminent, and most economics are still doing that today. But another group says that if a recession was coming, then it should have already happened. Or they say, hey, technically we had 2 quarters of negative GDP growth last year, so that was the recession. And they say the market has already bottomed and we are in the start of a new bull market now. The statements from these two camps could not be more conflicting. So this right now is genuinely one of the most unclear and difficult times for investors. So today, I will show what history says about this. Today's video will show that in fact, although it might not be clear for everybody right now, the dominoes that historically make up the sequence of a recession have already started falling. And this is done by using the acronym HOPE. So let's get into it. So the acronym HOPE stands for housing, orders, profits, and employment. Investigations into historic recessions caused by inflation show that this style of recession always has a certain typical path. So a typical sequence in indicators that start to go down as the recession progresses. And that sequence is what is spelled out by the acronym HOPE. Here you see the chart of the HOPE framework. It was created by Michael Kantrowitz, and when you look him up, for example on Instagram, you will immediately find this chart. The horizontal axis of the graph shows an assortment of different economic indicators, and the vertical axis shows the time in months. As stated below the chart, the time t is 0 is the same point in time where the Fed ends their tightening cycle. Now, strictly said, we have not even seen that yet. The Fed expects to probably do one more 0.25% raise. That would mean that t is 0 would be in June of this year. However, another interpretation of this t is 0 can be the time where the Fed reaches a value of Fed funds rate that can be seen as significantly restrictive to the economy. I believe this to be a better definition, because if the Fed would, from this point on, just keep raising straight into a recession, then the lag time in months on the chart would just go into minus months for the first indicators. So let's assume the second definition, and let me explain this a little bit more. So in the cycle that we are in right now, I will assume the point of being significantly restrictive was after the 4 times 0.75% raises and the 1 time 0.5% raise, with the Fed's funds then being at 4.5%. That was at the last Fed meeting of last year in 2022. So I'm taking the start of 2023 as the T is 0 time point. So let's test this assumption. The second line, the new housing permits, should just have started to decline in the 6 months prior to that. Let's look at the new housing permits graph. Here is the housing permits chart. We can see that it indeed started to decline from around the middle of 2022, where the mouse pointer is at the bottom and the line indicates in the chart that we're at June of 2022. Let's do another check of T is 0 at the start of 2023 and look at the next indicator, which is the ISM New Orders Index. You can see that that should have started to go yellow also already in the last 6 months leading up to 2023, so in the second half of 2022. And interestingly enough, it should actually already be worse than the last chart of the building permits, because you see here that in the third line it goes quicker from yellow to orange to red than the second line. It goes from yellow to orange in the first 3 months after T is 0. So that means right now, these past couple of months this year. So let's look at the ISM New Orders graph. And indeed, the chart has already gone down significantly. I've drawn the red line at the 50 level, which stands for the level that is considered contraction. And you can see that we've already gone significantly below that. By the way, that is similar to what we did in 2001 and in 2008. And we all know what happened after that in those cycles. Okay, now to the zoomed in bit of the chart to look at exactly what time did the data start to go bad last year. I added the black vertical lines to indicate the start of 2021 and 2023. I would say when we went from a 55 level to just below the 50 level around the middle of 2022, we already went from green to yellow. And when we went below the 50 level and below the 45 level in January of 2023, we went orange. Now this is a bit of interpretation, of course, but I think it's okay. And when we would drop below 40, then we would go to red. Okay, back to the hope chart to see if that aligns. So the ISMs, the third line in the chart, go from yellow to orange at T is 1. So that would be in January this year. So that would match the timing of the chart in the previous slide. And if it goes down further in the next couple of months, that would definitely confirm the red in this graph at about the T is 5 to the T is 9 time point. And this also aligns with what I've been hearing in several companies' Q1 conference calls these last earnings weeks. For example, ASML, a major manufacturer of chip manufacturing equipment, and therefore a cyclical company. It noted a drop in orders quarter over quarter for last quarter of the end of last year to this quarter, Q1 of 2023, of almost 50% drop in orders. From about almost 8,000 orders to about 4,000 orders. So in a nutshell, the hope chart still makes complete sense to me. So let's assume the timing of T is 0 at the start of 2023 is correct. What would that mean for the rest of the indicators? Let's look at industrial production, which should not have peaked yet and should peak at about T is 10 to T is 12. So roughly in the fourth quarter of this year, according to the chart. Well, it looks like we had a small dip this year, and we are now heading back up to the peak again. And if that starts rolling over in the end of this year, then also this point in the previous graph would align. So assuming the timing in this hope framework is really correct, then there is a really big question. Assuming the sequence of steps will be followed again in this market cycle, when will the stock market then start to really go down like it did in previous cycles? Well, the answer to that has to do with the lag of many months that you can see in the chart until we reach the E in hope. Because stock markets historically have always started to go down when unemployment has started to rise, the E in hope is the most important. I have already made a video about exactly this topic to show this to you. So if you are interested in seeing more detail about this, then please click the linked video. But in short, assuming the hope chart and my assumptions of T is 0 are about right, unemployment should start to significantly pick up about 12 to 18 months about after the T is 0. So that would mean somewhere in the first half of 2024. So let's keep an eye on all the indicators before we get there and see if the sequence and this timing will really pan out. Keep your eye on all the indicators. So I hope you got a lot of value out of this video. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on all of this information, so please leave a remark in the comments. Are you interested in this channel creating more of these kinds of videos? Then please click the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.